Our show today kicks off with a profound question about the decline in population. Would having the population result in a reduced environmental footprint and lessen our impact on the planet? This thought-provoking question hangs in the air as numerous bizarre alien orbs descend from the sky to the Earth. In the town, a rave was taking place with EDM music resonating among a throng of people. One of these orbs navigates its way to the balcony and unfolds, unveiling a peculiar gray parasite within. It ventures backstage and infects the DJ's brother, who was seated on the side. It infiltrates his ear and commandeers his movements, and once in control, this alien transforms the rave into a scene of carnage, causing the man's head to explode and morphing him into a creature with tentacles, resulting in the death of everyone present. Fast forward to sometime in the future, we're introduced to the show's protagonist, Soo-in, and she's employed at a check-in counter. After being chastised by an impolite customer, he ends up trailing her home. In fact, he collides directly into her bike and then proceeds to repeatedly stab her with a knife. Soo-in attempts to stagger away, but she collapses on the ground, and as she does so, another one of those spheres descends just beside where Soo-in lies, and as this deranged murderer stalks Soo-in, he is abruptly bisected by an unforeseen force, and the man who was cut is Lee Kwang-chun, who not only has a history of violent crimes, but is also a schizophrenic. However, the detectives at the station were unclear exactly how he died. He's been cut clean in half, but given Soo-in was passed out at the time, they couldn't really explain it. Things get wilder, and Soo-in is actually fine now, and her injuries have turned into scars, and she's taken to the hospital. When she wakes up, she seems perfectly healthy. So what happened to her? And it looks like the alien parasite has gone inside her, shown by flashes of Soo-in shaking on the ground that night. We then jump forward a few months. A man named Sol Kwang-woo is part of a gang called the Manganese and is given the job to kill the leader of the enemy, Yeon Gunpo. He goes to a club and pulls out a knife and was ready to kill him, but the whole plan messes up and he had to run away. Because of this failed mission, Kang-woo had to hide. He throws away his cell phone and goes back home, a house in the countryside. His sister, Kwang-hee, was acting really weird, while she says that their younger sister, Jin-hee, is around, but is not clear about it. However, Kang-hoo does find Jin-hee's phone in the top drawer of the dresser, and a leaflet on the mirror for something called Seaijin Church Revival Prayer Meeting. This is linked to everything, and the Parasites seem to be starting some kind of group together, and soon after, they trick a man who hires an escort into an empty building. The Parasites show themselves and seem ready to harm him, but suddenly, guards with weapons rush into the warehouse and a big fight starts. These Parasites were very strong and throw heavy cabinets at the soldiers, but the guards were good at their job and managed to control the aliens. This is Choi Jun-kyung, and she understands that the Parasites are working together. She finds a locked door and has her workers break it open, and inside they find body parts and a sign for that church. At the same time, Soo-in was back at her job as usual, and her scars were getting better, and she was talking to Detective Chun-min too, who was the guy we saw before looking at her case. Soo-in also feels weird because of that parasite, and her ears start ringing, and she starts to see the people around her differently. She's now on the Parasite's radar, who talk with each other and trap her late at night. Kwang-hee was one of them, and she confirms that Soo-in was one of them as well. She gives her a leaflet for the church, telling her to come visit. Kang-woo was overhearing all of this, but sadly Soo-in's parasites hear too and scare him, and the parasite makes him cooperate or face a painful death. When Soo-in wakes up, Kang-woo tells her that the parasite's larvae got inside her and used its time to heal her wounds, which means it couldn't eat her brain. Soo-in was basically two different people and a mutant, and after telling her what the parasite wants, he goes back home. Soo-in goes home and writes in her diary, "Is there really something else in my body?" And after losing 5 minutes in a flash, she wakes up to find that the parasite has answered her, and yes, there is someone else, and the parasite needs to explain their situation in detail. "Ask your question," it says, "and I will answer." At the same time, a special team from Seoul comes to town, and they have machines check for parasite infection, and there's more security in the area as well. A special meeting happens with a live example and talk of body snatchers, and Jun-kyung was the leader of the team to find them and get rid of them. It seems like the aliens all showed up at the same time, so since the machines have said that there are no parasites here, everyone was safe. This team has been very careful with all the information about the parasite, making sure that this doesn't get out to the news. To kill these parasites, they need to completely destroy the heart, and a small gun won't work. The group needed a big gun or a special knife to kill them. To check for people they might think be parasites, all they need to do is pull a hair and it won't fall apart. Since Chul-min was there, he starts to think Soo-in might be a parasite. Things get even more wild when Jun-kyung's husband turns out to be infected by the parasites. She was using him like a sensor because of his super hearing, and keeping him alive to find out where the parasites were gathering. This explains how she was able to find the parasites in the apartment building, and Kwang-hoo sells a watch and gets money from a pawn shop. Across the street, he decides to use some of the money to break into his sister's phone, hoping to find out if she left him a message. Even though he manages to break into the phone and find out Jin-hee had called his friend Ki-seok, Kang-woo had to stop looking and run because of Yang Bupo gang, who'd been searching for him and has found him. He's been seen, and Kang-woo manages to get away on a motorbike in a very messy action scene. After escaping, Kang-woo goes to the dock and talks to his friend, Kyu-min, and he points out that the young Gunpo guys are serious, and they decide to meet at 9 and talk more. Kang-woo was also determined to try and find Jin-hee too, based on what he found out so far. Meanwhile, Jun-kyung goes to work and is surprised by one of the excited local officers coming up to her, and this is Yeon-seok, and he's apparently a big fan of her work. He wanted to be part of the team, and she agrees to say good things to HQ for him if he helps her find some of the parasites. She also signs his book for him, however Soo-in's case was one of those that she'll be looking into soon. Chul-min really likes this girl, and he decides to visit her while she was at work. He really wanted to find out the truth, and he pulls her hair from her during break. But it doesn't disappear, and Soo-in gets a weird ringing in her ears when a guy walks by from far away, which seems to show that he's one of the parasites. Before Chul-min leaves, he gives her a Kai ring, and that night, Kyung-woo's sister, Kyung-hee, comes and picks up Soo-in, and they go to the church. The pastor wanted to meet her because she can act like humans, not knowing that Soo-in is actually a mutant. Kwang-woo was also there, and he was watching from afar, recording this on his phone. When Kyu-min asks to meet, Kang-woo ignores him and moves closer to take a look. When he finds that there are a lot of dead bodies wrapped up in a shed just next to the church, sadly, one of the parasites shows up and starts looking around the place, making Kang-woo move quietly around out of sight. While doing this, he trips and finds that his little sister is one of the people inside these bags, and he was very sad and has a hard time stopping his crying. While all of this is happening, we switch to Soo-in in the church, who finds out that the parasites came to Earth with one goal: to control everyone and kill all people. They act like victims, saying that they're being killed and how Jun-kyung was using one of their own as a hunting dog. According to the pastor, the parasites can't have babies, and they need to do everything they can to make sure they stay alive. The meeting ends quickly though when Kang-woo was in his angry madness, decides to kill the parasites in the shed, and sadly this warns all the others at the church, who go out and start hunting him. The Yeongunpo gang show up and catch Kang-woo in the woods, and as they do this while on the parasites' land, they're all killed by the aliens. Kang-woo gets away, and so does Soo-in, as she leads him away from the killing. They manage to meet up with Koo-min at the gas station, and they quickly drive off. Sadly, Kang-woo soon finds out that Yoo-min is not really his friend, and he's told the enemy gang about him to save himself. While they're driving, they start fighting with knives until one of the parasites falls on the windshield and starts attacking right away. Soo-in's parasite starts protecting them, and a fight starts on the road, and at the same time, Kang-woo finds himself in a car dangerously sitting on the edge of a cliff, and Koo-min was still alive, but he says that Kang-woo has been tricked by Jong-do, his older leader, and Kang-woo had to die. The whole mission was quite dangerous for Kang-woo, with him being used the whole time. When Kyu-min passes out and dies, Kang-woo is saved at the last second by Soo-in, who kills the parasite and goes back to her normal state. In the past, Jun-kyung forgets the receipt for her shopping, and goes back inside the shop to get it. While she was gone, her husband gets infected by the alien. Kwang's infected husband goes back to the shopping center and walks through the aisles, causing a lot of trouble the whole time. People run away and scream, and when he faces Jun-kyung, he cuts off her ear. Jun-kyung manages to get away, but not before saving a kid. To stop her husband, Jun-kyung traps him inside the storeroom, and the sadness sadly was too much, and she sleeps in the dark outside with tears running down her cheeks. Right now, Kang-woo and Soo-in were staying in a motel, and Kang-woo thinks that they need to go to the police and tell everything about the Saint-Jin church, and this is their best chance for safety. Soo-in thinks that they can trust Chul-min, who's the officer who arrested her dad for hunting her in the past. Chul-min likes her because he actually helped her escape from him, and Chul-min talks to Von Sook about the monsters and the church, and he didn't want to get Team Grey involved and decides going to deal with it himself. He goes to see Jun-kyung, but she talks about Soo-in and what's happening with her, and Chul-min calms her worries and talks about the church and gets the tip that he's gotten. The whole task force gets ready to attack, but when they get there, they find the pantry of bodies, but the rest of the place was empty. But what they actually find is surprising and not what they thought. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.